Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I'm a little bit closer to you
I know.
today.
Like, yay. Welcome to the Lowdown with Sheli Brown. It is Thankful Thursday, and always thankful to be here. It's a good day.
It's a good day. I actually got in the car this morning and had so much energy. I've been a little bit under the weather, not a little bit, I've been really under the weather
Yes.
For several days. And so today was the first day that I woke up in a week and felt like myself.
Right.
And then there was this amazing song that was like the universe telling me today's going to be a really good day.
Yes. And a lot of times it is what you make it, right?
Absolutely.
So if you go in with that attitude, then it's got to be a good day.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we should start off with safety.
Absolutely.
Dylan,
The producer.
Yeah, hey guys. Welcome back, Sheli, first of all. But it is Thankful Thursday, so I just want to say thank you to everybody who's out there on the road and making it happen. We do appreciate you guys, and wouldn't be sitting here doing this if it weren't for you guys, so thank you for what you do.
Yes, sir.
We are at 51 days of no preventable accidents, so great stuff there, guys. And then also 8 days of getting out and looking, which
Awesome.
a week deep, yeah, awesome stuff. We are making it happen every day. 50 days away from 100 days of no preventable accidents, which the first time was awesome. I'm sure this time it's also going to be awesome.
Yes.
So exciting stuff.
Yeah, I like it. So today, kind of want to talk. I know we've talked about a lot of different topics, and we've talked about personalities before. Dylan and I did the show with the little quiz thing, and we always talk about how those are important in the workforce. But I wanted really kind of to discuss the uniqueness of everybody having a different personality and how that's a really good thing. Like, I know we've talked about how to work with different types of personalities, but learning how to embrace your personality and use it as your strength, and how it really is a good thing that everyone has a different personality.
Absolutely.
Because if not, we'd be a bunch of robots, right?
Sure would.
And within each department, I think it's very important to have all of the different types, because then you work well together and you learn different things, and it just opens you to new ideas, and it kind of changes the way everyone works together.
Absolutely.
Right? Like you need the cheerleader, but you also need the serious person.
Yes.
And you need the
team captain. And
exactly,
you need
the one that'll step up.
Yep. And then you also need the ones that are there and are going to do their part. And all of those things contribute to a really good environment.
Yes, I agree. And, I just think that sometimes, people want to say, like, oh, well, that personality is whatever. And I think it's important to remember that I think that there is a trait or a personality type or anything within each person that other people look at and think, I would like to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But what's really easy to forget is that somebody is looking at you thinking that about you.
Absolutely.
So be happy with who you are, right? And use it to your strength. Like, have you been in situations where you figure that out and you've been able to do it?
Yeah, there's been a few. It's not a ton. I don't like to, be like, oh, I got a bunch of things. But
well, and that's the thing.
Kinda...
It's like, it's not being egotistical. Like, I think
Right.
that's the hard part, is we feel like if you kind of brag on yourself or say, like, I'm really good at this, then people think of it as like you being conceited. But
it's not
necessarily.
Not at all. Sorry,
cut you off.
Oh, no, but I think you're exactly right. It's weird that whenever you hear someone say, oh, yeah, like if you were to compliment somebody and they're like, yeah, thank you, like, I know I'm decent at it, like, it sounds, full of yourself and whatever, but really there's like, well, that's one thing that I know I'm good at. That same person might turn around and be like, oh, but I'm awful at this, I can't do this, I can't do this. And that's just how it is. Everybody around you, like Christi was saying, is looking for something in you, or is looking at something in you and wishing that they were good at that. And it's not always the people you might expect either. You'd be surprised. You'd be like, yeah, man, I wish I was good at some of the things that you were good at. And same goes for me. I look at a lot of people and I'm like, I don't even know what I'm marketable at. Like, I don't know what those skills are or what personality traits I have that can help people as well, and I'm sure that other people feel the same way about that,
I agree. I think every single person has something that they can contribute to, and it's not, and we're not talking about technical skills here. Obviously, those are all important, but when I refer to hard skills, technical skills, that's your job. You know, our drivers know how to drive. They're on the safety show to improve their driving, and that is all the technical side of it. When we're talking about these personalities and the traits that are good, we're talking about soft skills. That's what they call it, like in the recruiting and HR world. When we're looking at somebody who has done a certain job, you're like, oh, that's great. Your resume looks really great. You've done all of these job duties that match up with my job duties that I have. But as soft skills, it's hard. It's hard to put that on a resume. It's hard to communicate those personality traits about yourself, that your strengths that actually contribute and help you do your job better. I specifically for our drivers, I consider they have some really amazing soft skills, emotional intelligence, as well as, you know, we've got our diplomats, we've got the ones that everybody goes to kind of be their voice. You know, those are all strengths, and that's based on your personality and your character.
Yeah. And, you know, and it's one of those things also, I think sometimes we have to learn to recognize them within ourselves. And like we were talking about, it's not being conceited if you say, okay, and being okay with people telling you that they like that about you.
Yes.
Because I feel like, did my microphone just fall? Oh, we're good. Okay.
No, it did. It did fall.
Can you hear me? Sorry, technical difficulties. Pause. But being okay with that, because I find a lot of times if people are trying to tell me, you know, hey, you're really good at doing this or doing whatever, I will then come back with like a negative. Yeah, but thanks. Or I'll find something to like almost demean it. Like it's hard to just accept the compliment because you don't want to sound like, you know, you're just conceited. So you don't want to just be like, oh yeah, I am really good at that. But it's okay to say,
yep,
you know what, that is a strength of mine. Doesn't mean I don't have weaknesses, but that is a strength, and there's nothing wrong with accepting the compliment and then just improving it and being good about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it is a challenge to not immediately minimize yourself afterwards.
Yes.
It's strange that we as people are like, will
self-critical.
Yes, so self-critical, and to the point where we'll receive a compliment and, like you were saying, just immediately be like, well, here's a completely unrelated negative thing about me so that you don't think that I am just allowing myself to be positive, which is strange because we look at other people and we're like, wow, look at all these good things about you. Look at all these great traits that you have and all these cool things that you can do, all the things that I see in you, we see in you, and yet we still want to come back with, oh, well, I'm negative. I don't know how good I actually am at this.
You know, You know, that, just like the same, you know, I am so jealous of your hair. But there are things like there, you know, that you see in others and you're like, you're identifying actually the weaknesses that you see in yourself and the strengths in others. And so it's important to share those things and compliment other people. You know, I really like your leadership skills. I really, you know, I wish I was as good a leader as you, but not just saying that, but then if you feel like that's a weakness of yours, going out and taking and putting the effort into improving that. Hey, how did you get really good at that?
Yes.
That person, that's an opportunity for you to step in and improve that particular skill. Maybe it was something that there was a trick to it that made you really good at that, and you can share it with others.
Yeah, because it could have been the same thing. They could have admired that in someone else, and they asked somebody, and then that's how they learned it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is, like, the things that we envy about other people, or maybe not envy, but are just wanting to be better at, that we see in other people, the things that they are good at most of the time are things that they've worked on for a long time.
Yes.
There's a lot, you are seeing the end result and a lot of work and a lot of effort and time. So what you see is somebody's professional work, I say professional loosely, but you know what I mean, like everybody's an expert at something, and just because you are seeing somebody's expertise doesn't mean that they don't see your expertise.
Absolutely.
And you don't have to be an expert at everything. It's being a jack of all trades is cool sometimes, but you will always be the master of none, so you're not always going to be able to have everything, you know?
Yes.
I think so I actually did make like a little list of things that are good for different types of roles. And I started making this list, and actually I didn't finish it. I've only got 2 columns here, of each particular role, meaning driver, customer service rep, DM, HR. You know, I started to make this list and realized that a lot of the same skills are required for every type of position. It's just how you utilize it in that particular form. So, you know, one of the most common, obviously, in our particular industry is communication. You know, with our customer service reps, they're communicating differently than with our customers than our DMs communicate with our drivers.
Yes.
So there's a different type of communication there. Our drivers are communicating with our DMs differently than how they would communicate with a customer, a shipper, or a consignee, or whoever. The most important thing is utilizing those strengths for that particular role. Leadership skills are needed in all of those. Obviously, our DMs, they're taking leadership of their fleets. They're taking that leadership role of making sure that our drivers keep rolling and to enact some action whenever that's not happening. And they're communicating and making sure that their fleet's been taken care of.
Yep.
The same goes for our drivers. They have to have that leadership skills, because guess what? They have to have full initiative. They're on the road. It's up to them to,
Make those split-second decisions.
Making those decisions,
yes.
And without, any direction, they have to have those leadership skills. Calling, into dispatch when there's a problem, and taking the initiative to communicate effectively. Those are all leadership skills. They're just applied in different ways. The leadership skills for our CSRs is different, because they're taking ownership of that customer and making sure that customer is being taken care of. So there's all of these skills that we talk about that actually are across every single particular position. It's just how you apply them.
Yep. And they all go into what we always talk about, playing into the bigger picture, right?
Absolutely.
Like everyone's job really is just as important as the next.
Yes.
And so don't ever think, again, I'm just a CSR.
Yeah.
I'm just a DM.
They're all parts.
Yeah, as you've just shown, everyone has a leadership part. Everyone has the responsibility.
Yes.
And they are, they all have to work correctly for the greater good of the company. It kind of goes into something I read that said the goal of any individual should be to make the organization that one works for stronger and more dynamic.
Yeah.
So it should be like everyone should have that individual goal of what can I do? What's my part? Don't worry about, necessarily, yes, you have to work within your department, but just for you, set your goal of what can I do and how can my personality help or my abilities help to make the company better.
Yes.
And, I feel like that should be everyone's goal all the time. And when you hit a point of, sometimes you hit a point where you've done everything you can in a role or at a company. And that's not a bad thing.
No.
That doesn't mean that you suck or the company sucks. Like, sometimes you've
it's
just
a cog
grown
in the
as
wheel,
much as you can.
Yeah.
In one place. And it's important to recognize that, like when it's time to move on. Sometimes it just might be that your role there is done, but you want to be able to look back at it with pride and be like, you know what, I'm leaving it a better place than when I arrived.
Yes.
Like, this is what I contributed, and now I can take that somewhere else. But make it fair to both of you, because you should be just as happy as your company is with you being
Absolutely.
there, because they're paying you for a service, but you should also be fulfilled by that. I tell my kids all the time, if you realize that you're not, then it's more about your integrity of knowing when to move on, because if you're not giving them your full 110%, then you need to move on, because that's not fair on either part.
And you mentioned kind of another piece to that is if you've reached a plateau, what do you do at that point? Yes, an option is you could go to another company. But I think something that we do really well is recognizing those plateaus and using that to grow into something else.
Yep.
So I've had people come and talk to me, hey, I want to do this. How do I get there? You know, and
it could be something completely different than what you originally started in.
Completely. We were just
And I
talking
think that's the
about
great
different
thing.
roles within the company, and how, you know, why don't you try this? How do you know what you're really good at unless you try it? It may be something completely out of the box, but hey, you know, I'm really good at this job and I really like it. However, you know, at this point, I feel like I'm not growing. What do I do now? So that's where you come to HR. You go to your supervisor and you say, what else can I do?
Yeah.
Because those strengths and those personalities can contribute everywhere.
Yes, yeah, and by then there could be like a new role that, you know, when you first started, maybe that wasn't something that was there,
And
but now
now
there's something else, and you're like, hey, my personality would work really well in that, you know.
And there's this need that I could fulfill.
Yes, yeah, and it really is. I mean, personality is just so important about that, because I know before I started here, Kendra would talk to me about a job, and she always wanted me to come back and do orientation with her, because she was like, your personality would fit like perfect. And so I really thought, okay, well, if I ever work there, that's where I'm going to work. No, I went to HR. Kind of the same thing.
Kind of.
But, you know, it was a different fit, but it still worked really, really well.
Yeah.
So you just never know.
Yeah, and I think that also applies to your hobbies and your personal life too, because that stuff does affect your work life as well. If you're not satisfied with where you are with your own personal things, or if you're hitting plateaus in other areas of your life, if you have hobbies or friends or whatever that you feel you need to improve on, and you hit that plateau and you hit that, you know, stagnant area, sometimes it gets harder to find that motivation at work because you feel like, oh, I can't do it here, so there's no way I could do it here. And so I think it's important to also ask yourself those questions in your personal life, or within things that you're working on at home. If you're into woodworking, for example, and you've been making the same things for the past
Over and over
few
and over.
months over and over and over and over, and you're like, man, I don't know what's going on. I feel like I'm slacking at work a little bit, and I'm like getting too comfortable. Well,
Complacency. And,
Complacency.
you know, those are all signals that you need more.
Yes.
yeah. Or even maybe not that you need more, but just try more and see if that helps out. Like you said, Sheli, the worst thing that happens is like you try it and it doesn't work. Whatever, that's fine.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
it's
okay too.
On to the
yeah.
next.
I had a friend tell me one time, he was like, you know, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna do stand up sometime. I'm just gonna go to an open mic and I'm gonna do stand up. And then he was like, you know, because if I don't do it now and
Right.
I'm 70 years old, I would look back and be like, well, I don't know what would have happened, and at least I can go up there and look like an idiot for 30 minutes and then just be like, hey, I did it, whatever, like that was that. I'm not going to do that again.
Yes.
Instead of constantly.
That was a fun little run.
Yeah. And instead of just always being like, man, what if I did go up there and do that? You know, it's
Yeah.
just.
What if you
gotta,
were the next Seinfeld? I mean,
Yeah,
you never know.
with the bass line and everything.
Exactly. Well, and something I read earlier said individuals who learn how to learn are the most effective over time. I thought, I really like that. It's so true, because we've
Yes.
talked about it before. To grow, you have to continue to learn.
Well, I think that's why we have this safety show twice a day, and we encourage, obviously, often participation, because although, you know, we kind of talk about similar things, it's all relative, and it's all something that we continually have to retrain ourselves.
Yes.
Especially with our drivers, you know, safety, you get into a rhythm, and unless you pull yourself out of that rhythm and reconnect with those important skills, the decision making, the leadership, you know, all of those things, applying the knowledge, you do kind of get complacent.
Yeah, and because you know it. Nobody's saying you don't know it. You know it, but just because you know it, then you're not learning anything new about it, and you're not applying anything extra that you could. So you're not seeing where you could improve. Like, yes, you know it and it's good, but it could be better.
Could
or
always
it could
be
be
better.
great.
Yeah.
And, that's why you have to accept learning new things and just listening. And then, oh, okay, I wasn't even seeing it this way because, yeah, this way works. But this way could also work.
You used the word earlier, dynamic. Dynamic is about change. And it's about evolution. And that's something that is so ingrained in our industry as a whole is how can we be more dynamic every single day? Dynamic can also be the structure of something, meaning the environment. How can we create this dynamic that is changing and growing and doing more? Well, it's full circle back to the original statement that you made is all these different personalities contribute to that. If we didn't have the different personalities and everybody was exactly the same, we would never grow.
Exactly.
You would never see any growth. You wouldn't see the studio here because originally, before all of this was here, it was Rick at a desk. And, there's just so much, and it has evolved and grown so much into this resource that we utilize every single day. And that's how we have to think every single day when we come in, or every single day when our drivers wake up and get out of their bunk. How can I be more dynamic today?
Yeah. And how can you make your personality work and help somebody else?
Yep.
Because you're right. I mean, you could hire the same type of like drone driver that's just going to do the work, get out there and do it. But then they're not going to talk up the company. They're not going to be proud of where they work. It takes all those personalities of, oh, it's fun to work with this person because they bring this to the table. And, having Sir Rick's big personality, if we didn't have that, the radio show would not work. Between him and Dover, not that other people couldn't step in, but it takes
they
their
have
personality.
a certain personality.
Yeah.
That makes it work.
Yes.
Sorry.
No, you're good. I mean, I think people would tune in to watch us all the time, but it would not be the same.
No, it would not. And the amount of energy and personality, I don't have that.
That early in the morning, no. No. Check with me at I could do the evening show. I could do the 10 o'clock at night show.
Oh,
I'd be good on that one.
I think our night drivers would like that.
Hey, if we start doing a night show, I definitely would like to be. Sorry, I had my mic muted. If we start doing a night show, I would definitely like to get in on that. We could do BCB Live at night.
After dark.
It would be
after
dark. The after hours party.
Oh goodness, I think we get more participation that way.
Right?
It might get a little dicey, but it would be fun,
Right, we'd have to see what the rules are.
Yeah. I was about to say HR would have to monitor that one.
Or just clock out, it's a casual conversation. What if I just started streaming on a different channel
there
and I was not affiliated CBC
there you go. It's
after hours
air on air.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yes. This is Misty self, not Christy.
I don't know what my
This
alternate.
is Hillen Dolland here coming at you live. No affiliation.
Just change the letters.
Yeah, I don't know.
We would just come up with completely
Something.
Belly
different names.
Shroud.
Is that what it is? I'm I can't think. I don't think like that. It's Sheli Brown. That's my name.
Right.
I don't know. I told y'all about a nickname I had when I was younger, right? Maybe not.
I don't think so. But please do.
So this horrible, silly name, and my maiden name was Wells, and in junior high they would call me Welly Shells and Cheese. So there you go. There's a little tidbit, a little fun stuff for you later.
How do you spell Welly? Can I get that?
Can we work on that, please? Could you please let
And then
us
I
know?
got married. So how about
then
that?
you changed it. Yeah.
Sheli Brown.
We'll make a name tag for it. Don't worry.
Right? I think I get more about my last name now than when I was growing up. I mean, of course, it was Christi Amaya, so I'd get Christi Amayo, or when Christi Yamaguchi was skating,
right.
I was like, okay. But now with self, it's so easy, but that makes it harder. Like,
Yes.
everything is south or sells, or, and so I finally I'll try spelling it, but I finally just have to be like self, like yourself. Oh, self. Yep.
Well,
that's
I
what
have
I've
to
been
say
saying for
brown
10
like the
minutes.
color.
Yeah.
Like, I say that a lot. If they're like brown, but then like I'm kind of nasally, so people don't hear like the N, like brown. And so I just end up saying like brown like the color, and they're like,
Yes.
oh, brown, okay.
Yeah, that's kind of like Brent's name. Like, I have to make sure I like enunciate the N, because it's always Brett. I'm like, no, Brent. Like Brent with an N. Throw the N in there. Brett. No, Brett.
Brent.
Brent.
Or Jude. Everybody, they, unfortunately for my son, I have to like overemphasize because they often say June or what's the other one? I'm like, June. That's a girl
name.
Like, it's a boy. Jude. Jude.
Yes.
Like, man, we asked for his name, not for his religious upbringing.
Exactly.
I'm like, his name's Jude. Jude.
Yes.
Like, Hey Jude, like the Beatles.
Hey
Oh, yeah,
Jude.
like the song.
Like-
there you go.
Yeah.
Taking it back to
anyways,
the music. I know.
You know.
We digress. Sorry.
Fun little names.
Yes.
So you
I
learned
know.
a little bit about all of us today.
Exactly.
Little fun little nicknames that we grew up with. So that's the other part is, we have these personalities, and I think the most important thing to remember, like you said, is embracing your own personality and your own differences, and being proud of those differences.
Yes.
Because you do contribute to the overall of the company, as well as your inner circle, personally. Your strengths and weaknesses contribute to, your environment at home as well as work. And if we didn't have those differences, we wouldn't have innovation. And that's the key part, is to continually learn, like you said, what was it? Who learn how to learn are the most effective. When we learn how to do more and grow and use those strengths, we are contributing to the overall good of the company.
I agree.
Yes, correct. It always comes to you two just staring at me like it goes to the overall benefit of the company, right?
Well, because I know I can be a talker, and so then I feel bad because I'm like, oh, did we left Dylan out?
Well, and we start talking, and
I
it's
know.
like, oh,
I'm like, sorry. He's over here like, hey.
He's like, hey, I got something to say.
I'll raise my hand. It's okay. It's not a big deal.
I think that is the most important thing. I hope that people will walk away from this with is that embrace yourself and be proud of who you are, and be proud of your strengths and weaknesses. That it's okay to be different.
Yes,
we
it's
love,
important to be different.
It's important to be different.
Yes.
Yeah. I think, we joke that we're very much the same mindset, but we're also different too.
Yes.
You're very extroverted, and I am not. But those play really well together. You balance me the same way that I balance you, and
Yes.
I feel like that's in every capacity. You have to have that.
Yes.
And
yes.
I think that's with any relationship, whether it's friends, family, romantic relationships. You got to find people that you are like, you fill in those slots for somebody else.
The yin to your other yang.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
have to, like, for example, Chelsea is very like, oh, I am gonna like stand up for myself and like here's this. I'm like, please
Please
don't
Yes.
yell at me. And whereas I'm good at public speaking and I'm good at like writing things out, things like that. I have to help her with that and things like that. So it's like you gotta I mean, amongst many other things, but you gotta be able to compliment people
Yes.
in a way, or it becomes difficult for too much of the same person. It's like,
just
we're not getting anything done here. There's no accomplishment. This is not, like, I got to be able to build off something you don't have, and you have to be able to build
Yes.
off something I don't have.
Absolutely.
And fill it in for each other, so then or one mega team and it's unstoppable, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, we do have a lot of the same mindset, and the way we do things is similar, but then the personality is what's different. And that is very important because, like you're saying, too much of the same. Most people, when they meet somebody else with their same personality, it usually doesn't work because it is too much of like, yeah, you like yourself, but then there's only so much of you can take.
I don't know,
all
man.
at
I would
once,
hate to have
you
a.
know?
I would hate to work with me. Like if I was sitting next to me all day, I'd be like,
But see, other people like it. Like, that's the thing, is
Yes.
other people like it. And it's the same thing as you were saying in your relationship. My husband and I were completely different.
Yep.
I mean, you know, I joke with him because I'm not a big candy person anyway, but if I'm going to go for candy, it's typically like something sour, and he will go straight for sweets. And so I tell him, I'm like, it's much like our personalities. Obviously, I like sour and you like sweet.
Oh,
So
that's
our running
hilarious.
joke. Yeah, because he's a lot more gruff
Yeah.
and speaks his mind. And I mean, you'll always know where you stand with him. And I'm more like, you could add like a smiley face or like a please at the end.
Well, you know, you hear that opposites do attract. You know, that I really don't think that's a myth. I think that's 100% true. I mean, my husband and I are the same way. We are very different. We are, and probably will continue to be very different people. But we complement each other so
Yes.
well that it works. And so, you know, and we've always just kind of worked that way. But I think it takes both parties understanding and accepting of each other's strengths and weaknesses and how they balance each other.
Yep.
You know, the one thing that we have to do is be supportive of the other person. You know, whether it's professional or personal, the most important thing is to be respectful
Yes.
of those differences in others and be accepting of your own differences. And accept criticism. It's the only
Yeah.
way we grow. As well as know that your differences make you who you are.
And that's a really special thing.
It is.
And it's something that we're all thankful for, especially on this Thankful Thursday. And I'm thankful that